Welcome back to the Mindcracker. We are back on the Mindcrack server, and I'm on a boat. And it's time to go caving on a boat. No, we're just taking the boat around here, out here, to try and find sort of a new area to cave. I've done so much caving on the server that I have to kind of travel out of ways to find new areas. And I'm mostly going after iron. I'd like a little bit of everything, basically, but mostly iron. So we're going to be doing any kind of caves we find. Otherwise, I would just do parallel strip mining at near bedrock. Anyway, we're out in the ocean, about a decent distance, several hundred blocks southeast of my base. The lens is over yonder. The future wasteland village over in this direction. Let's see, in this direction you can see a swamp. The swamp house I built is in some direction, some distance that ways. Pyro lives over there somewhere. Etho lives over there somewhere. Michael is that way, kind of. Spawn Village is over there. Good lives over there. No, oh well, he used to. Anyway, that's enough orientation. You get the idea. But we're in the middle of the ocean, so I can find some new caves. Basically, I'm just going to break my boat, get it back, and then just dig straight down somewhere. Let me get another breath of air. Did I have... Oh no, I didn't bring one of my helmets with Aqua Affinity. That's fine. It doesn't really matter. So, oh, okay, that's stone. So let's just dig down. Place a torch. Okay, and we can see... So, I should be far enough away that we will be in a new area. So I'm just going to dig down. I hope I don't dig in the lava. Maybe I should do a too wide thingy like this. That's a little safer. And with my efficiency picks, it won't take that much longer. And we'll just leave. I guess we'll leave this mine shaft here. No reason not to. So we are currently at 41. Why elevation? Well, oh, there's iron. Okay, I guess we'll take it. I'm looking for mine shafts or caves or something. And there must be a cave nearby. What I should have brought is a piston. What you can do in a little cave like this, or a little tunnel, if you're looking for caves, put a piston against the wall and try to activate it. If it pushes the block, you're within 12 blocks of a cave. If not, you're not close to a cave. So let's try this. Anyway, I can turn that off. While I'm caving, let me regale you with a story. It's story time. Children, gather round. Get your milk and napping mats. Let me sing for you the ballad of Thorbert Magicfizzle. Yes, that's right. Oh. Water and monsters dying in pain. I like those sounds. Yes, Thorbert's Magicfizzle, Thorbert. Oh, here we go. Of the Magicfizzle and the evil elven stepfather of doom. Why does he have an evil elven stepfather? Why is he the evil elven stepfather of doom? It's a little ditty brought to you by Bards R Us. No, it's that's actually, I'm changing the words from the original Lord of the Rings. Actually, the Return of the King cartoon made by Rankin and Bass. It originally used to go Frodo of the Nine Fingers and the Ring of Doom, but I like my version better, actually. Anyway, we found a cave. That's the important bit. So, Thorbert Magicfizzle is a character I created for a Dungeons and Dragons session, a campaign that I've played with some friends in real life. Most people are familiar with what Dungeons and Dragons is. If you're not, it's a tabletop role-playing game where you there's a rule set where you roll a series of die. You get into adventures. You try to oh, you know what I forgot to do? Let's see. This is a Silk Touch efficiency pick. I'm out of efficiency picks that don't have Silk Touch on them. This one is the fortune pick. I'm trying to remember which one is which. Okay, so when I hit this guy, I'll use Silk Touch. When I get something that requires or can benefit from efficiency, then I'll use the fortune one. Let me, I brought a stack of coal, and so I guess I don't really need the coal here. And we have a lot of holes in the ocean. Oh, look at that. So Thorbert Magicfizzle, if you're not familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, let me give you the basics. If you've seen The Lord of the Rings, that tells you 9/10 of what you need to know about the setting. It's sort of a classical high fantasy setting with wizards and warriors and elves and dwarves and goblins, a variety of monsters. And the idea is you role play a character, and it's really, if you've heard of Baldur's Gate is a Dungeons and Dragons game, but it's just a computer game instead of a tabletop game. So anyway, a little bit of backstory, or a little bit of information, I guess, about Dungeons and Dragons. I need to give you a little context for anyone who isn't familiar with sort of the setting. Oh, I didn't bring a bow. I went immediately to my bow slot. So in Dungeons and Dragons, and we're playing in the 3.5 rule set in case anyone is interested. I think that's what we're playing. Oh, there's a lot of monsters down there. Oh, in Dungeons and Dragons, there's 4 basic class archetypes you can play. There's the fighter type, who's good with weapons and armor, who's basically what we're doing in Minecraft now. He can use any kind of sword, axe, bow, crossbow. He can wear any kind of armor without with equal proficiency. He can wear plate mail or chain mail or leather armor, whatever he feels like. He's good at fighting, so that's the fighter. Then there's the thief, who is good at sneaking around and stealing things, picking locks, detecting traps, skulking around, and is usually kind of like a scout in your party. Then there is the mage archetype, who casts spells, shoots fireballs, summons friendly monsters to help you in battle. Gandalf, aka, although does a lot more spells than Gandalf ever does, if I'm honest. And then the 4th archetype is the cleric, or the priest, whose predominant role is to heal the characters. So he casts healing spells. Also has some beneficial like buffs where he can make you stronger or make you resistant to disease or fear, or different things. So there's the 4 different types, and for each one there's more than 4 classes. In fact, there's a lot of classes. Those are just sort of the archetypes, and you can pick those as classes, but there are subclasses that are sort of variations on those themes and specializations and things they do. So for instance, for the thief class, one of the more specialized subclasses is called an assassin. So mostly what assassin is about is sneaking up behind people and hitting them with daggers and using poison, that kind of thing. Very stealthy. Let's see, for the cleric class, depending on the deity that the cleric worships, they may have special abilities with weapons, or they may be just spellcasters. Then there's also the druid, who is sort of a different type of healer type cleric. They sort of worship the forest, or walk around. They're kind of like the hippie version of the cleric. And they commune with the animals, protect the forest, usually have some sort of animal companion. Can also summon animals to help fight for them, and can shapeshift at certain levels into animals. And then there's even more specialization. Some special clerics can kind of focus on transforming into animals, and may pick a particular animal, like might turn into a grizzly bear or something. And may focus on, combat. I gotta protect the forest. That kind of thing. So, 2 particular subclasses I need to tell you about, because they're very pertinent to Thorbert and who he is, and why he is the way he is. So, think of the mage. The mage has a spell book and memorizes spells. And every time he uses a spell, it sort of disappears from his memory. And if he wants to use it again, he's got to spend time memorizing the spell. And so managing your spells and figuring out which spells you want to memorize is very important to the mage. Is this another ocean? Probably. Let's come back here. Yeah, I've missed some iron. Okay, water update. It's been a little laggy on the Mindcrack server recently. So the mage sort of memorizes spells out of a book, is very erudite, reads a lot, spends a lot of his time with the nose in the book. He's kind of a nerd. I mean, Dungeons & Dragons is already nerdy, but he's really nerdy. He's the super nerd out of the nerds, and he casts spells. Anyway, there's a different spellcaster called a sorcerer, and the sorcerer doesn't memorize spells at all. He's like a wild man, and he just the magic just flows within him, and he doesn't have to memorize spells. They just sort of come to him, and he channels magic in the moment. He's real passionate, kind of wild, a little less tame than the mage, right? So there's an important distinction there. You know, the person who prepares carefully and reads and does everything they need to do, and then the person who just sort of wings it and like flings magic around. And then there's sort of a similar parallel, which is how we're going to get to Thorbert and sort of the genesis of my idea for him as a character. There's a similar parallel between fighters and barbarians. So a fighter can use any type of weapon and any type of armor, and he practices with his weapons and armor. He becomes very skilled, has a number of feats he can do, where he can like do a critical attack or a power attack, but he's very focused and disciplined. And then in contrast to that, there is a barbarian who doesn't really wear all that much armor. At the most, they can wear leather armor or a little bit of chainmail. And they're kind of like a wild man. They'll just go crazy and berserk out and go into a frenzy and just start swinging around a battle axe and hacking things to pieces. So I was thinking about Dungeons & Dragons and that parallel of how there's the more disciplined, in control mage or fighter, and then in contrast the crazier, less in control. Let me close this off here. The crazier, less in control sorcerer and barbarian. That parallel gave me an idea. And so here is the genesis, here's Thorbert. So Thorbert Magicfizzle is a dwarf, and he's fairly young. He's in his 40s. Dwarves live a long time. For a dwarf, like in their 40s, that's kind of like they just turned 20, kind of like they're becoming an adult, but they're not really there yet. So he's about that age, and he's a dwarf. And just like in Lord of the Rings, dwarves and elves don't really get along. They don't really trust each other. They sort of see the world very differently. And Thorbert thinks he's a very good dwarf and a very traditional style dwarf, but he's really not. So here's the truth of the matter. Thorbert thinks that he is a sorcerer and that magic just flows through him. Sorcerers and magic spellcasters in general among dwarves are kind of rare. They tend to be more fighters or paladins or clerics. Those are more common. Mages are less common. But Thorbert thinks he's a sorcerer and that he just has an untapped well. I think that's a mine shaft over there. We gotta come back over here. But I missed some iron. Thorbert thinks he has this like untapped, unstoppable tide, river of magical fury within him, and he can just let it go at any time. But in reality, he can't cast any spells at all. He's totally inept. He has no magic potential whatsoever. And in reality, he's closer to a barbarian. So here's the thing. He is a dwarven, quote-unquote, sorcerer. He wears a robe like a wizard, or like a sorcerer, but it's made out of chainmail, which is very dwarfy. So he's got a chainmail robe, which I think I need to go down this way. I've already forgotten. Too busy thinking about what I'm talking about. He's got a chainmail robe like a mage, but also very dwarfy. And he's got a wand, also like a mage or a sorcerer. He's got a wand that he uses to cast spells. Only his wand is fairly thick and big, and on the end of his wand is an axe blade. So his wand is actually a big battle axe, which is extremely dwarfy. I went the wrong way to find that mine shaft. But that's okay as long as I keep seeing darkness and new caves. I'll find my way back there sooner or later. Maybe over here. Yeah, this is it. Okay, so... Ooh, let's get rid of that water. So he's a dwarven quote-unquote sorcerer who tries to cast spells. Now picture this. You've got a dwarf in chainmail wielding a battle axe like it's a wand. So he's swinging this around saying, chain lightning or shocking grasp. And what's actually happening is he's swinging his battle axe through the air, and just he's sort of like, by accident, he hits enemies with his axe and does damage that way while he thinks, because he's more than a little insane, while he thinks that he is casting spells, but he really never does. So why is this dwarf like this? Why is he so strange? How does a dwarf come to be like this? Well, there's a story involved. Boys and girls. So a little history, a little backstory that provides the context. Thorbert, his family, his clan, when he was very young, too young to remember it happening, they were murdered by an evil elven mage, just a dickhead, really, a real asshole who doesn't like dwarves, and like I said earlier, dwarves and elves don't like each other. Did I place that? That is naturally spawned. Okay, nobody's been here. Good. I don't know why anybody would have been here. Whoa, Supersha! Dwarves and elves don't like each other, and this elf particularly hates dwarves and is a powerful mage, and you know, as an elf, he lives for thousands of years. Elves are extremely long-lived. And as a dickhead, he's kind of bored with life, and he's sort of like finding very creative, manipulative ways to taunt and to cause pain to certain dwarves that he may have age-old feuds with. And what the nature of his feud with dwarves isn't really important. Only that he don't like them. And so at one point he hatches this scheme. He has this idea, and he decides he's gonna slaughter an entire clan because he's a powerful mage, and he can just summon up a bunch of craziness to do that. Except for one. He's gonna leave one little baby alive. Whoa! Explosion. He's gonna leave one baby alive, and he's gonna adopt that baby and raise it as his own son. And guess who that is? Yep, you guessed it. That's Thorbert. Thorbert is raised by this evil elf. And for 40 years, more or less, this elf is constantly feeding Thorbert misinformation, not only about himself, making Thorbert think that he's this powerful sorcerer, but he's feeding him misinformation about what being a dwarf is all about. So the whole point of this is that in 40 years, so he's taken like 40 years to set up this this game that he's playing. In 40 years, he's going to disappear and set Thorbert loose on the world, and then Thorbert's going to be embarrassed without knowing it, and is going to cause a lot of trouble without knowing it. Hi, buddy. And this sword does not have... Oh, it does have knockback, but I guess he hit the little lip of the wall there. Ooh. So, for one thing, Thorbert speaks Dwarvish, but he speaks it with a heavy Elven accent, which is not what you want to do. You don't want to walk into a Dwarven civilization and start speaking Dwarvish with a heavy Elvish accent, especially especially if you're a dwarf. That is going to cause trouble no matter what. And he has all kinds of like improper ideas of what being an elf or what being a dwarf is all about. He thinks dwarves live outside, for one thing. He spent his entire life outside, not in the mountain, not underground. Oh, how much iron have I picked up? Let's just take a look. 2 stacks. He thinks dwarves live outside. He doesn't know about drinking ale. He doesn't know about the different dwarvish deities. He's totally out of the loop. And for his whole life, this elf, who doesn't actually... He has a name, but Thorbert never knows it. He just calls him father. Or whatever. The, you know, the dwarvish word for father with an elvish accent. Let me get this water out of the way. Is this may be, did we climb high enough to find another hole? Yeah, we did. Okay. He's been teaching Thorbert that Thorbert is a source of thaumic energies, that he's just has this unending river of magical potential within him that he can constantly let go. And so by the time Thorbert goes out into the world, he is so completely brainwashed that he believes all of these things he's been told, and he sees them as if they're really happening. So he thinks that he's actually casting all these spells when he never actually is. Hoop, 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 hoop. Yeah, and he's more than a little insane after 40 years of brainwashing. Think about this. Think of being brainwashed for 40 solid years with no contact with anyone else. 40 brainwashed for 40 years by a very powerful elven mage. So the way he sees the world is very strange. And this elf basically did all this just out of spite and boredom, because he's I guess when you live to be 2,000 years old, maybe you get a little bored. I'm not sure. I've never lived that long. Maybe one day. I don't know. Oh, spider! Okay, so that is basically that's the backstory. And I guess well, I sort of rambled on, didn't I? In the next episode, I guess I'll split this up into 2. So I've been caving now for what, like 25 minutes now? Something like that? In the next episode, I will tell you about the exploits of Thorbert once he leaves the womb, or the cradle, I guess is a better word to use. Any iron over here? Let's look up here. Oh, look at that. Hiding right there. I was about to turn around and... Tell you what, let's, Can I do that? Oh, no. Let me block this off. There. Did it do it? Yeah. Okay, good. Kind of unnecessary, but oh well. Could have just grabbed the iron and ran, and I don't need the soap-touched coal ore. Did I pick it up anyway? I just heard myself pick something up. Let's get rid of that. I don't need that. Okay. Torches on the right. Lead on all night. Torches on the left. Go back to where you started. That doesn't rhyme. Yeah, so I guess in the next video I'll talk about what happens once his father disappears. So once the 40 years is up, basically his stepdad, the elf mage whose plans have reached fruition, he just sort of disappears, and he makes it look like he was murdered in cold blood. So Thorbert now goes out looking for vengeance and looking for clues as to what happened to his father. And that's when I actually start, that was all the backstory basically that I came up with. And I guess next time we'll talk about what happens once I actually start role-playing with some of my friends and some of the weird, funny things that happened. Yep, okay, so hope you enjoyed the video. To be continued. let's see. In this 25 minutes, I picked up that. Almost 3 stacks of iron, a third of a stack of gold. Not bad. And I guess I'll continue heading downward. But see you next time. See you later. Bye-bye.